The theoretical playbook for dismantling Iran's nuclear program often hinges on physical extraction, specifically a ground operation at sites like the Isfahan uranium conversion facility. According to recent threat assessments, this scenario guarantees a specific geopolitical outcome. If Iran sees American boots on Iranian soil trying to remove the fissile material, restraint no longer buys anything. The physical properties of nuclear material make this tipping point a mathematical certainty. Pop culture conditions us to picture a raid as a surgical strike, operators fast roping in, downloading data, and exfiltrating before the alarm sounds. But stealing enriched uranium requires confronting acute chemical, biological, and radiological hazards. Understanding why an extraction mission guarantees an Iranian nuclear sprint requires breaking down the specific tactical footprint needed to move that material. This image shows the primary form of the target material at Isfahan, enriched uranium hexafluoride, or UF6, housed in massive Type 30B industrial cylinders. The baseline radiological threat is actually manageable. Enriched uranium is an alpha emitter. It cannot penetrate human skin. The immediate danger lies in internal ingestion. The decay chain introduces isotopes like thorium-231, creating a minor external radiological signature. This diagram illustrates the immediate threat. UF6 reacts violently with atmospheric moisture, instantly producing an expanding cloud of hydrofluoric acid, or HF gas. This gas is highly corrosive and lethal, absorbing directly through standard fabrics to cause systemic toxicity. During a kinetic firefight, a single stray round compromising a cylinder valve turns the extraction zone into a lethal chemical environment within seconds. Standard direct action units, like DevGru or Delta Force, are not equipped to operate inside this specific chemical vapor environment. Even standard tactical gas masks fail to provide sufficient protection against high concentrations of HF gas. Surviving the exposure requires fully encapsulated overpressure respiratory systems to ensure zero alpha-emitting particulates or HF vapor reach the lungs. The assault force loses its primary advantage, speed. The mission timeline is subordinate to the chemical environment. The chemical kinetics of UF6 dictate that the extraction team must be built entirely around surviving a catastrophic hazmat event, completely stripping away the profile of a fast, light raid. A nuclear extraction requires a divided force structure. JSOC units secure the outer perimeter, while specialized nuclear disablement teams, or NDTs, handle the core objective. To survive the HF gas and alpha emitters, the NDTs operating in the inner cordon must wear fully encapsulated Level A or Level B hazmat suits. These suits severely degrade physical capability. The thick, pressurized gloves eliminate the fine motor skills required for specialized rigging or combat. The encapsulating visors restrict peripheral vision and rapidly fog up under physical exertion, making movement through a hostile industrial site treacherous. Communication is severely constrained. Breathing apparatuses muffle voices, forcing reliance on internal, easily compromised comm systems. The encapsulated suits also trap body heat. This creates severe heat stress, strictly limiting a technician's safe time on target before heat casualty becomes imminent. Because of these physiological limits, the NDTs cannot sprint or fight. Every movement is methodical, slow, and highly vulnerable. Then there is the friction of moving the material. A fully loaded Type 30B cylinder weighs over 2.5 tons. These multi-ton cylinders are hard-mounted to the facility floor and require heavy industrial tools to detach. Before a wrench is turned, explosive ordnance disposal technicians must slowly sweep the industrial mounts and cylinders for booby traps or sabotage charges. The EOD operators must identify and defuse complex initiating systems while fighting the severe visibility and dexterity constraints of their Level A suits. If a cylinder cannot be safely detached, the material must be transferred to heavily shielded Type 5A containers on site, a process that adds hours to the timeline. A standard Tier 1 raid relies on surprise, aiming to complete the objective and extract within 45 minutes to beat enemy reinforcements. Rigging, clearing, and securing multi-ton uranium cylinders in hazmat gear expands that operational window from minutes to several hours. The combination of heavy industrial rigging and extreme physiological degradation forces the extraction team to hold a static position deep in hostile territory for an agonizingly long time. Once the cylinders are detached, you cannot load 2.5 tons of hazardous material onto a stealthy, fast-moving MH6 Little Bird. This payload comparison illustrates the required aviation asset, heavy vertical lift platforms like the CH-53K King Stallion. But this introduces a massive tactical disadvantage. CH-53Ks have huge radar cross-sections, are acoustically deafening, and move slower than standard assault frames. If successful, physical exfiltration permanently removes the enriched uranium from the board, erasing Iran's breakout capability. The downside is extreme vulnerability. For the hours those CH-53Ks and NDTs remain grounded at Isfahan, the U.S. force is entirely exposed. Hours of static time on target provides the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps ample opportunity to mobilize Quds Force units, armor, and ballistic assets. Securing the extraction site against those reinforcements requires establishing a massive, highly visible defensive perimeter. That perimeter relies on continuous close air support, AC-130 gunships, and electronic warfare aircraft flooding the local airspace. A covert operation is now mathematically impossible. It has rapidly escalated into a localized conventional war. From the Iranian perspective, the visual is undeniable. A heavy combat brigade defending an industrial site while helicopters slowly extract their state's crown jewels. The Iranian leadership views this operation as a direct seizure of the regime's primary survival asset. The immutable physics of moving heavy, toxic UF-6 organically forces the U.S. into a massive, undeniable military occupation of Iranian soil. For years, Iranian leadership has balanced regime survival by staying just below the threshold of a demonstrated nuclear weapon. The technical reality is clear. You cannot swiftly, secretly, or surgically extract heavy, chemically reactive uranium. The massive military footprint required to mitigate the chemical kinetics and heavy logistics leaves no room for diplomatic ambiguity. Once American troops are seen executing this massive operation, Khamenei realizes restraint no longer buys anything. The latent threshold equilibrium is stable only until it is broken. The physical realities of exfiltration ensure that once it is broken, it breaks completely, forcing Iran's final, desperate sprint.